Alrighty, welcome back, guys. Welcome back to one more episode of Playing Around with. And today we are actually playing around with Stripe. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to do a checkout page and collect payment using Stripe with Next.js. Now, the reason why I chose Next.js here is because Next.js is awesome. That's just to start with. And second thing is when you collect payments with Stripe, you need something on the back end and you need something on the front end. You need to do a couple of things here and there. And Next is perfect for that because they have recently integrated API wraps as well. Enough with the talk. Let's get started. So, first of all, why do you want to use Stripe? So you want to use Stripe because a couple of things that are really, really cool. One, you don't have to worry about a PCI compliance. So collecting payment from people is not an easy thing, and there's a lot of compliance rule with it. You don't have to worry about any of that. And second thing is you don't need to store a user's credit card, and that's actually great because that data is not cannot be treated like any other data, and you don't want to carry the responsibility that comes with it. So Stripe takes care of that, and most importantly, you don't worry about fraudulent payments because Stripe has the fraudulence detection systems, and they carry that risk for you basically. And in return, you pay them, which is little. You pay only a small fee, and it's up to you to decide if that's a small fee or not. But my point here is that you don't have to subscribe to anything. You simply just sign up for free. You get your publishable key and your secret key, which you have to do in order to follow this, and you simply just start working, and that's absolutely awesome. And lastly, there's a huge, heavy focus on developer experience, which you're gonna see now. It's really quite something. So you can go to the documentations and you can understand everything that I'm about to tell you. I'm just trying to make things a little bit easier for you. All right, so let's get to it. What is the payment flow looking like? So the payment flow to collect payments in Stripe, there are 3 steps. One is that we need to create a payment intent. And then after that, we need to collect the card number and the details from the user. And lastly, we need to attempt to do a card charge or a card payment, right? Now, the payment intent, this is their latest API. I think before that, they use something called charges. So this is basically the latest that they use right now. And collecting card numbers actually happens in an iframe, so you need to kind of like use their own elements, and they are actually on iframe, so you don't kind of like you don't really you don't deal with that data like you deal with the name, for example, or something. Like you just they put their iframe in your page and they take care of the rest. And then you do a card payment. You basically go and tell Stripe, can you charge this card this amount? And then Stripe will come back to you and tell you, oh yeah, it succeeded or it failed. That's kind of like the overview of the whole thing. Let's jump into details. The first step is how to create a payment intent. Now, payment intent is basically what it is. So when the user is landing on when the user lands on the checkout page, the first thing you do is you go and tell Stripe, hey, I have this user who is on this landing page, on this checkout page, and this user is intending, there is an intent here that he's gonna, like shortly, I'm gonna charge a card or whatever payment method it might be, this amount. So basically, it's like communicating with Stripe to tell it that. But the communication to Stripe cannot happen on the client side. It actually happens on the server side. So the way we're going to handle this is once the user lands on your checkout page, we are going to make a request to our backend, right? So that's on our servers. And what our servers are going to do, they are going to create a payment intent. And that is going to happen simply by talking to the Stripe servers to request to create that payment intent. And of course, you need to specify what account is it using your publishable key and your secret key. In this instance, I believe it's the secret key. So on the back end, use the secret key. On the front end, you use your publishable key. Cool. So you go back to the Stripe servers and say, hey, I have this user who landed and I need to create a payment intent for him. And it's related to this account with this secret key. And then Stripe is going to say, oh yeah, sure, no problems. Here is your payment intent. And payment intent is an object that has a lot of like details going on with it, but we don't, not that we don't care, the most important thing is going to be the client secret. And the client secret is basically a piece of information that we're going to send back to our client. And that client secret is associated with that payment intent on Stripe servers. And that client secret is what we are going to be using to perform the next steps, right? To attempt that card payment and to collect the card number and everything. So that's kind of like the first step. The user lands on the checkout page. We say, okay, this user is going to pay this amount because we know the amount because he landed on the checkout page. And then we make a request to the backend. The backend is going to, our backend is going to create a payment intent by talking to Stripe servers, and Stripe servers are going to respond back by giving us that payment intent. Most importantly, in our servers, we are only going to send back the client secret, because that client secret is what is going to be used later to attempt a charge on that card, on whatever card we're going to collect from the user. So that's the first step. Now, the next step is actually the easiest in a way, which is basically we need to collect some information about the user, mainly his card number and his name. Now, the example I'm going to go through now is simply, like I said, just card number and a name, which is okay, it works, you know. But yeah, you definitely want to collect more information in a real world scenario, because you want to send more billing, like the billing details to Stripe. So Stripe does more magic on the back end and make sure that this card is like not stolen, not this, not that, and the billing details are okay with the credit card details and all that. So I'm just gonna give you like the bare bones example, and you can implement this the way you want later. But basically, you want to collect some details, mainly the card number and the name. And like, yeah, if this is with production, you probably want to collect more details as well. Now, the last step is we're going to attempt to charge that card. So we're going to attempt to make a card payment. Now, this will happen when the user submits the form. So the user is going to give us his name and his card number, and he's going to submit the form. Nice. What happens is our client now, keep in mind that our server is not involved anymore. Our client, because we already have the client secret, is going to take that client secret and take the details that the user has submitted, and is going to make a request to Stripe, a request to confirm that card payment. So basically what we are saying is, do you remember the payment intent you just sent me? The payment intent had a specific client secret, and now I actually have a card name, a card number, and customer name. Can I confirm that payment? And what happens on Stripe servers is they are going to attempt to charge that card with the amount that you sent to them, which is coming from from when you created the payment intent. And they're gonna do some other stuff, and that's completely like on the side. And they're gonna come back to you and say, okay, this has succeeded or this has failed. And they're gonna give us some really like good descriptive errors that we're gonna show to the user. And this is the main important part I want to show you here, which is basically how do you handle different error cases, whether the card doesn't have sufficient funds, the card is this, the card is that, all that stuff. You need to be able to handle it very, very well, because that is the crux of the whole experience. Nice. So let's recap. So what happens is when the user lands on the checkout page, we're going to make a request to the backend. On that request, our backend is going to talk to Stripe servers to create a payment intent. Stripe is going to send us back that payment intent, and we are only going to send to the client secret, to our client. So basically the client, the React app. To the client secret, we only send the client secret. Afterwards, we are going to collect the card number and the name on card, and usually there are more other details that you can collect from the user. After that, the user will submit the form. When the user submits the form, we're going to use that client secret, and we're going to make a request, client secret and the data that the user has given us. We're going to make a request to Stripe to attempt to charge that amount for that card. What happens is Stripe will try to do its thing. If it succeeds, it's going to tell us it succeeded. If it doesn't succeed, it's going to tell us it didn't succeed, and it's going to give us like a good descriptive message. So that's it. That's basically the payment flow, right? Now, before we move on, we need a couple of packages before we jump on the code. We need, on the client side, we need Stripe.js, and we need Stripe React Stripe.js, and on the server side, we need Stripe. Now, because I'm using Next, there's no difference between the client side and the server side in terms of packages. They are all your packages, right? So just yarn add all of these and you will be good to go. Now, before I move on and go actually to the code, you need to sign up for a Stripe account and you need to get a publishable key and a secret key. Just make sure that you have these two things because that's the first thing we are going to need as we jump across to the next thing, which is going to be setting things up. Oopsie. All right, cool. Now, this is a Next app. So I have a config example here. So in your next.config.js, which is not going to be that example, obviously, you need to put stripe_publishable key as publishable key, and then you need to put the secret key here. That's basically what you do. And I have my proper values here. Obviously, I'm not going to show you that. Cool. Now, let me just give you a very, very simple run through of what we have here. We have Next.js TypeScript app. And on that app, we have a page called product. And on that product, I have a simple order details with whatever the user is going to buy. I have a specific set value here. And I have two fields. I have an email and I have the name on card. And we don't have that the card field yet. That's one of the things we're going to be creating. Cool. And then hopefully once we are done, once the user can submit and can do stuff with it. Now there's a couple of things here as well. This is the payment form. This is this side of things. And we have a couple of pieces of UI states. You can just ignore that. I just have this so things can look neat. We also have a card error piece of state. This is important and it will be used a little bit later, but it's basically just to check if there is an error with the card element, which we will have as well. I'm just cutting things short so that the video is not way too long. And this is where we are going to be handling the submission from the user. And I'm using Formake just to make things a little bit easier, although I didn't really use it properly here because I'm using set field value and so on. Because yeah, I'm just making sure that it integrates properly with Chakra-ui, which I'm using to make all of this happen. Now again, I don't want to go through all of this because, well, it's a bit boring and it's not really the right way to do it. In a way, you probably want to make a proper custom input field that integrates between Formake and Chakra-ui, which I've done in the course that you can check in the description below, by the way. All right, cool. And then we have an alert that will only show up if there is a card error, just to show whatever the error is with the card. And then lastly, we have a button that submits things. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. There's nothing really like difficult here. Now, the first thing we need to do is actually create the API endpoint in which we can actually create that payment intent. So remember the side on our backend on our server side. For this on an Next.js app, we basically under pages we have an API here, and then under that we can have whatever you want it to be, whatever you want the route to be. So I'm just gonna have secret.ts. Cool. Now inside there we need to export a default function and export default function, and this is going to be a very simple arrow function. Now Next.js uses kind of like a very similar syntax to Express. So we have a request and a response. So if you haven't done any of that before, it's actually very simple to follow. It's basic JavaScript, in this case TypeScript. But yeah, it's basically, yeah, you don't really need to care about this if you're not into it. I'm just into it because it's just extremely simple. Now we need to type these things right away so TypeScript doesn't keep screaming. TypeScript doesn't keep screaming at my face. So we have next API request, and we have next API response. Beautiful. Now inside the body of this default function that we are exporting, we can kind of expect execute whatever code we want to execute if the user hits localhost API/secret, like that. Basically, this is the code that we are going to execute here. Let me actually make this a little bit bigger. Cool. Now, what we're gonna have here is actually extremely simple. What we will say is if the request.method equals post, then we're gonna do some stuff. Otherwise, don't do anything. Basically, otherwise, what we're going to do is simply send rest.status of 405, which is method not allowed. Yep. And then this is going to be send back method and not allowed. That's very simple. Basically just saying, okay, we only accept post methods here. Cool. Now, once the user hits this specific route with a post, what we're going to do is we're going to get the body that the user has sent. So we're simply going to say const body equals json.parse, because we need to parse the request itself. So request.body here. This is really, really bare bones, kind of like similar to Express kind of syntax. Like I said, like you don't really need to know this. Now we will be sending an amount to charge the user when the user lands. We already know the amount, so we'll be sending it. So I'm gonna just take out that amount and let me just save to refresh things. Cool. And then what we're going to do is we are going to make a payment intent. So we'll just do that right away. Payment intent equals, what we're going to do here is we are going to await Stripe. Now we need to kind of like make a new Stripe instant, right? And for that, we need to import Stripe itself. So that's the Stripe from the Stripe package. Remember, this is the Stripe itself, and that's because it's happening in the node context on our backend. And then we need to instantiate a new instant of Stripe. So I'm gonna say Stripe equals new Stripe. Yep. So we're going to make a new instance of that, and that is, we need to API key here. TypeScript being amazing as always. So here we need the we need the process.env. This is going to be the secret key. So again, this is going to be Stripe underscore secret underscore key. Beautiful. Now we need some config here, and for this we need to specify API version, and yep, just apply whatever version that is, and then TS, I think it's called TypeScript. Yep, TypeScript here in this case is equal true. Cool. Now there's a TypeScript complaint here saying that this, because it's a process env property, it might be there, might not be there. I kind of know for sure it will be there, but I want to be playing nicely with TypeScript. So I'm just going to say, if it's not there, just use an empty string. Awesome. Now, what we're going to do here is call stripe.paymentIntents.create. Stripe.paymentIntents.create. And inside there, I'm going to pass in an amount, which is going to be, keep in mind that this amount that we receive is actually, I think it still is in an integer, so I'm just going to make sure by parsing it to a number. And then lastly, we need to also pass in the currency. In this case, the currency is going to be USD. In this case, the currency is going to be a USD currency. Cool. So this is what we're going to do. This is going to create the payment intent, and basically we're going to send that back. Rest.status equals 200 on our side here, and then we're going to send back something that is, actually, let's do that. We send back client secret. Yep. Client secret is going to be payment intent.client secret. Cool. So this means that we are simply going to create the payment intent, and we are going to send back the payment intent to our client. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So now, if I basically go here, I'm gonna get method not allowed because this is a get request. But you can, like, when we do post request, things are going to be working. Cool. Let's jump back into our front end on the app side of things, and let's get things to work. Let's actually, the first thing we're going to do is actually, let's get that payment intent running. So for this, what we're going to do is I'm going to do a function here. I'm going to call that create payment intent, right? And this function is going to be an async function that is going to go and literally just going to do some stuff. We have a response that will come back from the API, and that is going to be await fetch of, we are going to fetch this secreto. Right, cool. And then we need here a couple of things. We need to specify that the method here is going to be post, so we don't have that error that I just saw. And then the second thing is we need a body. Oopsie. We need a body here, and that body is going to be json.body I think it's JSON.stringify, right? Yes, JSON.stringify. And then we need to send amount. In this case, our amount is going to be 725.22. And then keep in mind that whatever you send back to Stripe has to be in cents. So you just multiply by 100, basically. Easy peasy. Last thing we need to do is we need to set the headers just to make sure things work properly. In this case, is going to be one header, which has content, content type. In this case is going to be application JSON. Happy days. So that is a function, a very, very simple function that is going to create the payment intent with the amount. Obviously, I just put the amount here, whatever it is for our product in this instant. You can always just put that in a piece of state, and then based on it, you can change it and so on. Cool. Next thing, we need to execute that code actually when the user lands, easy peasy. And that is going to happen in a use effect with an empty dependency array for the win. And that is going to run only once when the user lands. And then just to check that everything is good, actually, yeah, we missed something here. This is going to create it, but we are not going to do anything with it still. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm expecting a client secret here. I'm expecting a client secret here, and then I'm going to await rest.json. So once you parse that into a JSON, I'm going to get a client secret, and easy peasy. What I'm going to set this, I'm going to set client secret. Yeah, I'm going to actually change this name a little bit. I'm going to say that this is client secret res, easy peasy, and then set client secret. We have it. Oh yeah, we need a piece of state to actually store that. So yeah, let's do that. So basically this is simple. We need to store the client secret somewhere. So I'm gonna say client secret here. Yep, and then set client secret. Yep, and this is going to equal use, oopsie, not use Stripe, not yet. Use state of an empty string. Awesome. And then set client secret here to client secret rest from here. Client secret rest from here. Okay, that is basically happy days because we are getting that and setting it into the state. And just to make sure that things are good, I am going to console. Actually, there's no need to console log. This is not the best thing to do. What I'll do is actually go to the network tab and make sure that when I refresh my page, I actually make that request to my backend and get the proper response back. So just give it a second, and you can see I'm getting 500 internal server error, which is beautiful. Why am I getting a server error? What's going on? Unexpected token of at 0. Am I sending something wrong? Let's go back to here. New Stripe amount. Yeah. All right, just a very small hiccup. We actually duplicate the code a little bit by actually like parsing the JSON and then also specifying that it is application JSON. So I'm going to take that away. And once we do that, we will not have a problem because now we are actually just sending strings and we are getting back, we are parsing it properly. So if you do that, you can look here and you can see that we are getting a client secret, and that's the whole thing. We just want to get a client secret. So once the user lands here, we have created the client secret and we can move on. Cool. So that's the first thing we need to do, right? So the user lands, we create the client secret, and we are happy people. Now, the next thing we need to do is actually add that card element to the screen. To do that, we need to actually use a couple of things that come from Stripe. But before I'm actually using it in this page, I need to kind of like init my Stripe elements and the Stripe, like basically the Stripe script in our app. And the way you do that with React is with the elements itself. So you need to, like I mentioned earlier, we don't really store we don't really take out the input from the user. And the way this happens is in a component that comes completely from Stripe, and to be able to use those elements and to feed your Stripe instant into those elements, you use elements component here, which comes from React. And then the next thing we need to do is also kind of like I mentioned just now, we need to make a Stripe instant like we did on the back end, but this time on the front end. This is going to be a Stripe promise, and it's easy peasy as well. We are going to use a function that called load Stripe. And in this case, we will simply use pros.env.publishable Stripe key. So keep in mind that on the front end, we're using publishable Stripe key, and on the back end, we are actually using the secret Stripe key. And this is going to be the same. Oops, this is going to be the same thing as well with what we did before, which is going to replace it with that. And then simply I'm going to say here that I'm going to supply that promise to the elements itself. Good. So now that we are actually passing that instant with the publishable Stripe key to an element, I can actually use that in our payments form. Now, the way you do that is two things. One, we need to get kind of like those elements that we just initialized, and we're going to say this is going to be equal to use elements, right? That's cool. Cool. So we got that running, and then the next thing is actually by kind of like actually using the component itself. Now, this element is going to actually allows us, this element is going to allow us to kind of like grab the value of the card component once we actually render it. So let's do that now, which is going to be here. So I'm just going to make a simple box here, and then inside that box, I'm going to make, I think it's called card element. Yes, card element, and that comes from Stripe, as you can see. That comes from Stripe. Cool. Now, what we need to do here, I'm going to pass in some options. These are usually just a little bit of styling options, and they're actually quite simple. But like, yeah, I don't want to spend time doing that here. And then the next thing, we need to also pass an onChange handler, and that onChange handler is going to get the event, the change event itself. And in this case, we are going to set the card error to e.error. So if there is an error inside that card, we are actually going to show that. Now, this is going to be okay, but it's going to take just a tiny weeny little bit before we can actually load the card on the page. And we need to make sure that we have fully loaded the elements, and we have also fully loaded the Stripe instant. So we need to also make another Stripe instant that is going to kind of like use or hook up into the Stripe context that we just created with the publishable key, and that with that we use the hook called use Stripe. So now we can't really show that card element until our code that is executed at the root, which is basically here. This code is 100% is like completely loaded, and the Stripe script is loaded, and then we can later show the card. Now, to do this is going to be extremely simple. I'm simply going to say here that this will only happen. Only this card element. Yeah, we are only going to show the card element if we have a Stripe instant. Yep, and we have elements instant. Then we have elements instant. Right, cool. If that is true, we're going to show the card, and if it's not true, I'm just going to show something really simple, which is going to be just a very simple loading container. So we need brackets first. Yep, and then we will use show what? Yes, we will show Santa he. Yeah, we need to paste that here first. Cool. And then inside that we will have a spinner as well. You have a spinner. Cool, like that. And then I'm just gonna make sure that this is with 100%. So again, this is just kind of like a little bit at the cherry on the top of things. You don't really have to worry about it, and it depends on what you use, and depends on whether you are actually using Chakra-ui or something else. Like I said, it's like, yeah, it's not a big deal, but basically what I'm doing here is I'm saying if the Stripe if the Stripe code is not loaded, or the elements are not loaded, like as is the case right now. If they are loaded, then we show this. If they're not loaded at all, then we don't show anything. And then this is going to be e.error.message over here. Yes, e.error.message. I think that will be it. And just in case, we can kind of like say if that doesn't exist, then you just pass it to 0. Cool. So that is working and well now. All right, cool. So now we actually have the card number, and we have the actual card here. And you can see, because I'm actually handling the errors that come back from inside that card, if you put a card number that is invalid, we have that card error showing up there directly. And that's really, really cool. Now, I don't like the way this looks like, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna kind of like show you how I'm going to style this, because it's simply a waste of time. I'm simply going to copy and paste this from my old code. And yeah, if you really are keen into taking a look into the whole code, you can click the link in the description below, and you can get access to the code if you subscribe to our newsletter, which is State of React, that goes out every week. Cool. With that out of the way, we can go back to work, I guess. All right, no, nice. So now that we actually have everything in place, we can actually start to collect the input from the user, and then handle his submission and actually do what we need to do. Now, to do that, we need to kind of like grab that element that we have just put on the page and use it to submit to Stripe itself. And that's why we have this elements variable. So what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to say that, hey, we will have a card, and that card is going to be equals to elements dot get element, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, get element, and it's going to be a card element. This is basically you're passing into it that card element instant that we have here, and that will give us the card instant. This is kind of like the object that we need to send back with our request to make the payment. Now, the second thing we need to do here is actually inside the handle submit. Now, the first thing we need to check for is that we have a Stripe. We have the variable called Stripe is actually not undefined, and then we have also the elements, right? So if there are no Stripe, if there is no Stripe, or there is no element, or even, which is, yeah, just might happen, or if there is a card error, or lastly, if for any case we don't have a client, we don't have a client secret, then if any of these happen, we are simply going to return. We are not going to do anything else. We are simply going to return. And what's like, yeah, this is not optimal, because if you have an issue with Stripe or whatever, then you're not really communicating what happened to the user. And we don't even have a try catch phrase here. Again, I'm just going to focus on collecting the like the payment from the user itself, and then you can do the same pattern and everything else. But this is basically just bare bones, really, really bare bones checking. Like if one of these things is not true, then just get this the hell out of here, just go back. Obviously, we're gonna do everything in a try and catch. And if we have an error, I have a very simple method here to to make a toast and show the problem to the user. And I'm gonna say that the title here is going to be error occurred. This is just a very generic title, because I'm going to use the error dot message in the description. Actually, let me scroll up a little bit. Error the message in the description, right? And lastly, we are going to have a status of error here, because this is a toast of an error. Easy peasy. Cool. So that's kind of like the very first things that we need to do. Now let's actually try to kind of confirm that payment, and we do that by calling using that Stripe instant that we just used, which hooks up to the Stripe the Stripe script that we have embedded in _app. And there's so many things here, but we're going to be using a very, very simple stuff here, and that is going to be confirm card payment. This is a card payment, so we need to confirm that. And the first thing you need to do here to send is actually the client secret, which is we already have that in the state, so you just send it through. And then you need to send the some data. And inside that data, what we need to send is, the first thing is going to be the payment method, right? And that payment method is going to be, we're going to send card as the card object that we have kind of grabbed from here. But this is going to be redacted to card only. And then last thing we need to send is going to be billing details. And I wanted to show you this because this is where you actually can collect the address and all the other stuff. I'm simply just going to send the name in this case. So values.name, and we can actually send an email if you guys are interested. I don't think they actually take email, but yeah, I don't think they actually take email. This is basically the billing details associated with the card itself. It's going to be name, city, address, and so on. Cool. So if I save this, we get, like I said, this is going to be redacted, and then we get two things back. We get an error object if error actually occurred. And the second thing we get also is going to be payment, is going to be payment intent itself. So we get an error object and we get kind of like a payment intent object that is coming back. And then just to make sure this is correct, I'm just going to say, I'm going to rename this to stripe error. Now, what we have to do here is going to say something like this. If we have a stripe error, I am simply going to handle that by throwing new error, a new error of stripe, new error, and I'm going to send whatever comes back from the from stripe error. Yes, whatever comes back from stripe error. So whatever stripe sends me back, I'm just going to throw a new error, and the error is going to be sent here, and it's going to, the message is going to be shown in the description here. Cool. Now, if we don't have an error, basically, yep, which is going to be another if actually. If we don't have an error and we have a success, this is going to show in the payment intent object. Yeah, payment intent here, payment intent dot status. So payment intent dot status. If the payment intent dot status equals success, actually there's a lot of TypeScript auto-completion here, but my MacBook is dying because OPS is a power hog. Anyway, so we are going to toast back to the user if this has already succeeded. We're going to toast back to the user and going to say the title equal, this is going to be very simple, payment successfully received. Payment successfully received. Cool. Payment successfully received. Ooh. What is this, brother? Payment successfully received. Cool. And then also we need to specify the status that this is success. The status here is going to be success. So we have payment. Oh, this, I think this is not payment intent. That's why I keep saying we need more. No, I think everything is fine here. Yeah, just give it a little bit. TypeScript is just a bit lagging here at this point. Cool. So basically go to Stripe and we say we need to confirm that card payment with the associated with that client secret that we just created earlier, and the user is going to pay by card. So this is the payment method here is going to be the card object that we just grabbed, and we're gonna have to send some other billing details as well. Awesome. This is good. So let's actually give this a try. The first thing we need to watch for, if I try to click, nothing happens, right? Because you can't really submit unless you actually submit this this form. That's the first thing, because we have required on it. That's quite important, right? Cool. So we do that first, and then if I try to do that again, that means I'm trying to try to submit without this, and it will tell me that your card number is incomplete. Now let's put a card number that doesn't make any sense. Directly, I'm getting an error that says, this is coming back from Stripe, by the way, so I haven't done anything to do with this. Like, yeah, the card number is invalid. And we have already changed. We have already kind of like made sure that we don't really submit if we have card error. So this is actually not invoking any submission. Cool. Actually, I think I forgot an await here. Yes, so you need to await this, and then we have an error, and then we have payment error, payment intent. Cool. Now this is all good so far, and then this is going to be, like I said, this is going to be like the wrong, and we get the wrong one back, and so on. Now let's actually test this with a proper working, not a working one, but a test credit card. I'm just going to do this like, yeah, just any credit card. And in this case, actually, let's actually test this with a card that doesn't make sense first. So let's just put a number card that doesn't make sense. If I try to do this, now I'm just gonna, hey, your card has insufficient funds. And now I want to just stop here and just talk a little bit about what's happening here, because this is very, very important. Now, again, accepting card payment is all about how you handle errors and how you communicate back to the user. It's extremely important that you know how to do that. In this case, when you submit this is going to be another error because the payment intent, you're trying against the same payment intent with the same card that doesn't have funds, right? Now, it's very important. Also, something that I'm not doing here, just in case, you guys should be absolutely doing this in production, which is showing a huge modal that says we are processing a payment, and just trying to also add an event listener where the user cannot navigate away from the page. It's important that you do this, which is like a little bit cherry on the top that you want to add as well. Now, another thing also that comes from Stripe is that sometimes Stripe, some credit cards and some cards will actually require, their bank will require another security feature in which you have to do authentication request, which is requested from the bank. Now, keep in mind that right now the Stripe script has actually overtaken all of our app, right? We are completely somewhere else, and this is something called the 3D secure payment method, and this is like a test of it. Cool. And keep in mind also that this is exactly why you wait for Stripe here, and you wait that Stripe has been loaded, because Stripe is doing a lot of things in the background. I'm just going to fail authentication for now, just to test how we do things. And again, it's going to bring me back here, and it's going to say you are unable to authenticate your payment. So again, the way you communicate the error to the user, the way you show the user that you're actually collecting the payment is extremely, extremely important. Right now, it's not really like absolute best. You should definitely show a huge modal that says, hold on, we are processing a payment, and then the modal will go away, and then you'll say something like your card has insufficient funds or whatsoever, whatever the error might be. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm just going to put in the proper credit card number. I'm going to collect pay here, and this one is going to actually go through, and we don't do anything so far, right? And I'm going to fix that by saying that if everything is correct, and if we have, actually this should have gone through. Yeah, I think this is because we have pounded that payment intent so many times, so we need to check what's going on here. Condition will always return false, and type status and undefined and success have no overlap. Not sure what do you mean by that. Equals success. Is that succeeded? Yeah, sure. That's my bad. See, because TypeScript is always lagging. So this is succeeded, not success. Yes, the status is succeeding. That's why we didn't get anything just now. Cool, makes sense. So let's do that again. So let's try 424242424242. And if I click pay here, things should make sense now, and I should get the toast here that says payment successfully received. That's it. I don't want to make this video any longer. It's already very, very long. Thank you so much for watching. If you have watched till the end, if you like this video, like it. If you don't like this video, kind of like give me some feedback of why you didn't like it. Subscribe to get more content like this. And if you would like to get access to the full code, you can quickly click the link on the description. When you sign up to our newsletter, you get access to every code that we make in this channel. I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you very much.